Hello, everyone, and happy holidays. Thanks for joining us for Access City Council. I'm your host, City of Las Vegas Communications Director David Riggleman. Coming up on this show, the speed limit on Charleston near UMC may be reduced to 35 miles per hour, and Thanksgiving meals are delivered to hundreds of Ward 1 residents. Here to talk about these topics and a whole lot more is the councilman who represents Ward 1. You know who it is, Mr. Brian Knudsen. Welcome back. How are you?
I'm fantastic. It's a super busy time of the year.
It is.
I don't know why. It's supposed to be really, really slow, and it's not.
It's not.
It's really busy.
It's a busy time, and I've said this before. I can't believe 2021 is almost over.
It was a very odd year.
It was.
I hope 22 is less odd.
I hope so too. It was like the sequel to the pandemic, you know.
You don't know how to say, are we at the end of the pandemic or the middle of the pandemic? Either way, let's move on to 2022.
Exactly, and try to put all of this behind us.
Yes.
So, Councilman, you know Ward 1 very well. It's your stomping ground, but we're going to show you on the map. It's important to note that we just finished the redistricting process, so the boundaries of Ward 1 and all the city's wards have just shifted a little bit. So we're going to show you on the map where Ward 1 was and where now it is today. So this is the current map, or it was as it looked prior to the redistricting, and then we're going to show you this is how Ward 1 has changed. So you kind of moved to the west and to the north there and picked up more of those neighborhoods.
That's right. We were talking about it earlier, as redistricting was a super hard process for me. There was a lot of the neighborhoods in my area that I no longer represent really had some concerns about being taken out of Ward 1. They grew up knowing Ward 1 was home for them. Mm-hmm. And so it was a really hard process. So talking through with neighborhoods, with businesses that we have a great city council. Olivia Diaz is great. Victoria Seaman is great. And I'm going to start transitioning those neighborhoods and those businesses over to those elected officials and let them know that we're a team up here. We all work together to make sure the city is represented.
Yeah. Councilman, explain to everyone why redistricting takes place after each census cycle.
So the city of Las Vegas grew exponentially over the last 10 years. Every 10 years, the U.S. government does a census. And by city charter, by law, we are required to redistrict to make sure that our representation is with a plus or minus of 3 to 5%, I think 5%. And so what we saw over the last 10 years is Ward 6 grew significantly. Ward 3 wasn't growing as fast. Ward 1 wasn't growing as fast. Ward 5 wasn't growing as fast. And so what needed to happen is Ward 6 shrunk, and that changed everything. And so Ward 3 had to grow. The only real place for them to grow was into Ward 1. There's a couple of Supreme Court laws that dictated how Ward 3 could grow. That was really into Ward 1. And so now, 10 years later, we're all about the same population base of 107 to 110,000 people. So it creates a fair representation process. Still hard. It was still really hard for me. I know it's still hard for a lot of the neighborhoods and businesses that I still represent, just in a different way.
Yeah, it's inevitably there's always some neighborhood or residents that feel like, oh, I like the ward that I'm in, but it's going to shift. So
yeah, everything changes.
Yeah, it does. And the city, we're sending out cards. If your ward has changed, you're going to get a little card in the mail saying your ward has changed, and then we'll show you on the card. You can go to our website and then figure out what ward you're in. There's also a QR code on there. You can take a picture of that with your phone, and then you'll be able to see the maps too. Yep. So try to make it as easy as possible for folks to understand. So change, it's always here one way or the other.
The only constant.
Exactly, exactly right. Speaking of change, one thing that hasn't left your ward is the medical district. You posted this on Facebook. This is important. Let's continue to keep Ward 1 safe for pedestrians and families in the Las Vegas medical district area. And specifically what we're talking about here is reducing the speed limit on Charleston, right?
So David, every single meeting I go to, every single one, traffic is the major concern. So they're asking for stop signs, speed humps, speed bumps, traffic cushions, painting of the streets, anything to get people to slow down and follow the rules. Charleston, between the 15 and Rancho, is an exceptionally busy area, an exceptionally dangerous area, because right outside there you have really the medical district, you have UMC Hospital. So patients that are coming outside there, families that are coming outside there, it's important that we reduce the speed limit, and I'm glad the city took that initiative. Also, for everybody out there, we just need to be better drivers. Yeah. I think everyone I speak with is going to say that we have some notoriously bad drivers in Las Vegas. We need to be better drivers. The speed limit change, I hope, will create some opportunity for more safe environment over there.
Yeah, absolutely. And We're already at a record pace this year. We've already set a record for the number of fatal accidents that have occurred on our area roadways. Many of those were pedestrians who were killed.
And Rancho and Charleston is actually the spot in our state with the most traffic accidents for a variety of reasons. And so really happy to be part of the city at a time when we're going to completely redo Charleston and completely redo Rancho in that area. So it's going to be a significantly safer area in a couple of years.
Yeah, so look for that if you're going to be driving through there. Again, the speed limit is now 35, so be careful. And a lot of pedestrians don't want to have any more tragedies around the holidays. And then, Councilman, this was awesome. We recently celebrated National Adoption Month. This took place at the City Council meeting. Near and dear to you, we're going to talk more about that, but the organization, which used to be the Adoption Exchange, is now called Raise the Future.
That's right, and so Raise the Future focuses in on a couple of things. One is finding forever homes for the hardest to place children, so children who are aging out of the foster care system or medically fragile, or sibling groups who are in the foster care system, historically have been harder to place. Raise the Future tries to find them homes, works with those around them to find homes. They also provide training for families who have adopted or in the foster care system to help them know how to deal with childhood traumas. How does an adult deal with a child who has significant trauma? It's an amazing organization. More importantly for me right now is adopting 2 children and being able to tell everyone what adoption is like and how you can bring children into your life. So, David, I could talk about adoption for hours and hours, and at some point I'll bring my kids on the show and I'll talk even more about adoption.
Yeah,
but for those watching, if anybody wants to know about adoption, please reach out, because I'll gladly buy you a cup of coffee and tell you everything I know about adoption and connect you to all the right people, because I can guarantee someone out there watching right now is thinking about adoption, and you never know what that one phone call could lead to that child living with you for the rest of your life.
Folks, he's serious about that. He means that. If you are contemplating adoption at all, he will help you, talk with you about the process. He has 2 adopted children himself, and
they're wonderful. They're monsters, but they're wonderful. Best thing I ever did, but they're monsters.
They're at that age, 5 and
six and almost
6
4.
and 4. 6 and almost 4. So
they're running the house right now.
Yeah, that's a challenging age. Both of those ages are challenging. So. And then, Councilman, we are heading on full speed toward the holidays, but we recently had Thanksgiving, and I wanted to give this a mention. This was awesome. You posted this on Facebook. You said, "Happy early Thanksgiving this week. My team and I stopped by Jamestown Towers to deliver a Thanksgiving meal to 125 plus Ward 1 residents." But you guys were also at Sartini Plaza and Stella Fleming Apartments. Again, these are senior complexes, right?
These are senior complexes. Nevada Hand, who we're going to hear from later, they actually manage the Stella Fleming complex. The Housing Authority manages Jamestown and Sartini. And so this is a tradition that Lois Tarkanian started. I was happy to keep up with the tradition. The seniors there are super fun. They remember me from my days when I'd bring my mom there. So when I go there, they say, "Why are you here? Why didn't your mom come?" So next time I promised them I'd bring my mom. But we do a meal and raffle prizes, and it's a super fun time. It's a good way to celebrate the holidays with people who deserve to celebrate the holidays.
Yeah, and it's really nice because these folks, this is a chance for them to get together to celebrate the holiday, maybe a few days early, but to get to do it. Perhaps they don't have family that's close by, and this is an opportunity for them to still get to enjoy Thanksgiving.
They also haven't been out for a year.
Yeah,
I mean, majority of them, this is the first time they've been in a gathering spot. So a lot of them were just very, very excited to be there. Wonderful experience.
Yeah, it's been a long haul for especially for seniors living in complexes like that. And Councilman, this is really great, right in line with the holidays too. The community partners in Ward 1, you did a big food distribution too, right?
We did. The Just One Project sponsored this. It was at the YMCA on Meadows and right across the street from the Meadows Mall. So I brought my kids. That's a picture of myself and the Bolden Area Command Captain. The governor was there as well. It was a good time. The Just One Project really managed it. I got to stand there with my kids and say, "Happy Thanksgiving." So I take no credit for it whatsoever, but I got to stand there. My kids did a great job of saying Happy Thanksgiving to all the people driving in cars to get a Thanksgiving dinner in their trunks. It was a wonderful experience.
With everything we've dealt with through the pandemic, it's been very challenging, and for many families, that food distribution was really a godsend.
Yeah, and the Just One Project, a partner organization with 3 Square and the City of Las Vegas did a great job of organizing. There was a lot of cars, and so they wrapped them around Meadows Lane right into the parking lot of the YMCA. It flowed smoothly. Everyone got a full course meal, and they got a little happy Thanksgiving for my kids.
Exactly, very nice. That was the added bonus to it. Well, speaking of the Just One Project, you posted this on Facebook. You said, today, Team Knudsen joined the Just One Project, Nevada Homeless Alliance, and Commissioner Justin Jones' staff for the Fall Project Homeless Connect. And Councilman, for those that aren't familiar, explain what Homeless Connect is. It's an annual event.
So Doreen Stonebarger from my office really was the key person there. So for individuals who are experiencing homelessness, it's a way to connect with a whole bunch of resources at one time. So they go in, they can get connected to housing, to healthcare, you saw a picture of a pets services there, to food, making sure that whatever services are available, they're plugged in, they're online, they're inline. And that's what it's about, is connecting those who need resources to the resources that are available for them.
And so often people just aren't aware of what is there and what can help them. So the idea is to try to bring all of that together. It's a wonderful project. And then, Councilman, I like this too. Back in October, the Buffalo Neighborhood Coalition put together a mural. Now, you have to tell me about this. Did they hire an artist? Did they do the artwork? How did this come together?
So in redistricting, I actually lose the Buffalo Neighborhood Coalition, which I'm very sad about. Some amazing people that live in that neighborhood, but what they did is they had a vision for creating some artwork that signifies their area, to help people know that it's a residential area and slow down. And so it's called the Buffalo Neighborhood Coalition. They went through the city's Neighborhood Partners Fund grant. They got some funding from the city. They commissioned an artist, and they found a wall, and they got the entire neighborhood to kind of chip in. So that day was really special. They hired, they had sound system out there, they had the artists out there, they had all the neighbors out there. We stood there on the corner of Buffalo and had some music and commemorated the buffalo that's right there. It's very beautiful. It's great to drive by it and see it. Because it was paid for at some part of our Neighborhood Partners Fund, we can take that into the city's Cultural Affairs art collection. We celebrated with a glass of champagne, and that's how neighborhoods are supposed to work. It was absolutely a wonderful experience. I think they're a great neighborhood.
So that's really an interesting thing. So did they just give the artist kind of carte blanche, or did they give him kind of an idea of what they were looking for, or how did it all?
The artist took the picture from another artist, but got permission to do so. But it's the Buffalo Neighborhood Coalition. So in the area, there's some Buffalo metal structures. And so it was this conversation between the neighborhood association and the city around what's appropriate. And that was the collaboration. The city kind of redid the sidewalk around there, make it look new and nice and spiffy, and they have a very beautiful buffalo painted on there. So everyone knows that that's a coalition of people that care about their neighborhood.
That's great.
I love it.
That's awesome. So congratulations to them. Looks great. And like I say, we're headed headlong into almost 2022. But we want to take a quick look back at Halloween, too, because you posted this on Facebook. You said, "Happy Monday. Over the Halloween 2021 weekend, it was great joining Ward 1 residents for our annual Creature Feature and Trunk or Treat event at Mirabelli Community Center." And that also is quite the tradition out there as well.
The staff at Mirabelli did a great job of organizing it. You can see me there with the Maniacs.
Yeah,
that was super fun for me because I haven't seen them in a year. This is the first time they were out as well practicing for future tournaments. The preschoolers that were out there in full force in their costumes. You can see them there. Such a great event, and the Mirabelli staff deserve all the credit.
Yeah.
Fun to show up and be part of it.
The cheerleaders, the Mirabelli Maniacs that you saw in the picture, they win all kinds of national competitions.
They're fancy.
Yeah.
They were asking if they could pick me up in the air, and I was like, I've had too many donuts. No, don't do it. It's not worth it. Save yourselves.
You'd be the high flyer, the first thing they throw up there. So pretty good stuff. Well, Councilman, we need to take a short break, but when we come back, a new development in Ward 1 will provide affordable housing to hundreds of city residents. That's next, so please stay with us.
When I was your age, I was just like you, fascinated by stars. But now I get to search for life in the universe. And who knows, maybe life is looking for us too.
So we're like aliens to them?
Yeah. Does anyone want to be a scientist now?
I do.
Awesome. We need more girls in STEM.
Maybe we can find aliens.
You think you've had a bad ride share experience? Even the worst ride share would be better than one of ours. But if you drive after drinking or consuming cannabis, this is the ride you're gonna get. Plan a ride, or law enforcement will pick you up. But at least you won't need to tip your driver. 0 fatalities. Lives are on the line. Paid for by the Nevada Departments of Public Safety and Transportation.
They'll test you. Try to break your will. But however loud the loudness gets, however many cheese puffs may fly, you're the driver, the one in control. Stand firm. Just wait. And move only when you hear the click that says they're buckled in for the drive. Never give up till they buckle up.
This is what too much sounds like. This is what stress feels like. And this is what help feels like. If you've lost a job, worry about your next meal, or have trouble making it through the day, we can help. Text STRESS to 211-211 to find a solution.
Welcome back, everyone. The nonprofit group Nevada Hand works to provide stable, affordable housing to Las Vegas residents. And the most recent housing development sits right in Ward 1, and it happens to be the largest affordable housing community in the state's history. Here to tell us more is Wally Swenson, Vice President of Corporate Affairs for Nevada Hand. Wally, thank you so much for being here. I know Councilman Knudsen and I were talking about this before you got here. We're really at a very critical level, a critical situation when it comes to affordable housing in this community, aren't we?
I mean, we really are. When you look at the most recent data from the National Low-Income Housing Coalition, there's a need of 84,000 units of affordable homes throughout Southern Nevada. That's 50 out of 50 when you look at all the states. And so as the largest nonprofit affordable housing developer, we have about 4,600 units in our portfolio, which we're really proud of, but it's a drop in the bucket compared to what the need is.
Yeah, and Councilman, I know this is something that is near and dear to you, because all of a sudden people who have good jobs, they're maybe not making 6 figures, but they have the good jobs, teachers, firefighters, people in the service industries, can't afford to find a place to live right now.
That's right. It's one of the most complicated conversations. And I'll ask Wally if you can talk a little bit about who lives in the complexes of Nevada Hand. But Ward 1's a really unique place because I represent people who have extreme wealth, and I represent people who live in extreme poverty. And so when I talk to our neighbors, when you talk to people living in houses right now about what they want the future of Las Vegas to look like, I have to talk about, if you go and get a Starbucks every day, you have to imagine where the people who work at Starbucks are living. If you go grocery shopping, where are those folks who are checking out your food? Where do they live? Because if they can't afford an apartment, if they can't afford to buy a house, which they certainly cannot, it's incumbent upon us to figure out an environment where they can live and still be close to where they work. And so that's the complicated conversation. And for Nevada Hand, a very critical partner for the city of Las Vegas and really every government agency in the state of Nevada, that's part of their role and responsibility, is trying to figure out a place for those folks to live. And so I think it's important to talk about who lives there, because it's a scary conversation for a lot of the residents in Ward 1, and I'm sure throughout the valley, is, who do you want living in a workforce housing complex, in an attainable housing complex, a really nice complex where people can live, and who lives there really matters. And I think that's something I'd like to ask Wally is, who lives there? Who lives in your complexes, and how do they make our community great?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a great question, Councilman. And as a nonprofit, we provide housing to approximately 8,000 individuals throughout Southern Nevada. These individuals, when we define these terms of extremely low income or low income, extremely low income is individuals who make less than 30% of the area median income. We serve individuals who make anywhere from less to that 30% all the way up to 80% of the area median income. Usually it's in that 30, 40, 50, 60% range. These are individuals who are working families. They are seniors on fixed income. And then we also have the only 2 affordable assisted living facilities in Nevada that provides that 24-hour care, not quite a nursing home type level, but just a little bit more assistance. than your normal independent living. So these are individuals who work normal jobs. I mean, this is housing. It's housing that looks very similar to market rate type projects, and they're residents who are your everyday type neighbors. They're working individuals, they're retired individuals, some are former county, state, city employees, some are working at casinos. It really runs the gamut in terms of the demographics of where our residents live and where they work, because our 34 communities are scattered throughout Henderson, North Las Vegas, Las Vegas, and Clark County.
Wally, let me ask you this. What occurred over the last 6 months, 12 months, last 6 to 12 months? What happened? Why did all of a sudden housing become such a critical issue here in Southern Nevada?
You know, I think housing has been a critical issue for longer than that, but I think you're spot on that really since the onset of the pandemic, we've seen us kind of hit this crisis mode. And really what it comes down to is a supply and demand issue. Mm-hmm. You see housing costs on the market rate side have really gone up. I mean, we have 45% of our population here are renters. That's one of the highest in the country and especially for a city of our size in Las Vegas. And so when you have 45% of your population renting, what's happening is people are being squeezed out of the market. You have the average rent throughout Southern Nevada at $1,600, $1,700. I've seen different statistics on that. Our average rent is $733 a month. So way lower. We're able to keep that artificially lower than your normal market rate costs. But that's what's happening is people are being squeezed out of the market and prices are going up everywhere and the demand is high. So we have the 4,600 units. We get thousands, usually hundreds, sometimes thousands of phone calls a day from individuals looking for affordable housing. And we're just full. I mean, we just don't have that type of a vacancy that maybe we saw a few years ago. And so the only way to get out of this issue is to build our way out of this and build more affordable housing.
Yeah. Councilman, I know that to Wally's point there, I know you're excited because the Decatur Commons project is going to be the largest affordable housing project in the state's history, right there in Ward 1. I know it couldn't come at a better time.
And for everybody who's familiar with Las Vegas, it's on Decatur between Meadows and Alta. There's two separate complexes that are being built. It's a mixed-use development, and most people remember it as the old Fletcher Jones site. It's been a vacant lot for more than a decade. And so the opportunity to develop it, develop that whole area, revitalize that area. There's senior complexes around there. There's the health district next to there. It'll be multifamily, it'll be senior and mixed use development. It changes the whole dynamic of that area, creates food options for some of the area residents, and just makes it look better. I don't think we need vacant lots in the urban core of downtown Las Vegas. So attainable housing, workforce housing, affordable housing, it's housing, which is number one. Two is I think we have an obligation as a government to work with our nonprofit partners and our for-profit partners to create more housing options so that those frontline employees throughout our entire valley have a place to live and be proud of.
Wally, let me ask you that. People may be watching this saying, hey, this sounds great. I'm really struggling with trying to pay my rent. How can they connect with you guys to try to find out if they qualify for some of this affordable housing?
No, it's a great question. The first step is head to our website, www.nevadahand.org. The good news is to the councilman's point, I mean, we have 480 units coming to market. Our 240 family units will be opening up. We're leasing right now. They'll be opening up in January. The senior side of that complex will be opening up in the spring. We're looking at a target date of March or April. So you'll see news of the grand opening once we officially launch and open this property. So that's the good news. I mean, we're closing the gap between the current housing stock and the need by a little bit. The unfortunate news and just the reality of the situation of where we're at in this housing crisis is that all of those units are kind of counted for right now. People can join the wait list. There could be availabilities that open up if you head to our website and get your name on that interest list and get in the process. But all of these units are income qualified to answer your question. And so they'll get going through the process. You can go on there, fill out your information. We'll take a look at it, kind of run it through our compliance process and verify your information. But the reality is that the units really have already kind of been accounted for. And so that's where it comes into growth and more building. So right now we have a little bit over 800 units under construction, about 850 units under construction throughout Southern Nevada. And we're building as fast as we can, but we can't keep up. Yeah. And so head to our website, get your name on the interest list. You could get lucky, there could be something that opens up, but we just need to keep building at this point.
And David, I would jump in. Like a lot of times I think people question what elected officials do. This is something that I spend a lot of time on, and so for those who are anxiously listening to what Wally mentioned, is you have to get on a waiting list because we don't have enough. We're 50,000 units short in just the city of Las Vegas. I, along with a couple of our city council members and several county commissioners, we have some state elected officials and staff from the state, the county, and the city are regularly meeting together to talk about how we can, one, provide land, two, provide incentives for development, both on the nonprofit side and the for-profit side, and three, make it available for everyone. And so you have a contingent of elected officials and staff at multiple government agencies that are acutely aware of the crisis that is upon us and are actively working on strategies to build us out of that.
That's great. That's great. Well, Wally, we are running short on time here, but I want to give you the final word here. Is there anything else that you'd like to add that is important for our viewers to know out there?
I think the one thing that I would want them to know is that our elected officials have really worked collaboratively with us as a nonprofit, and I even know our other nonprofit partners, the Opportunity Villages, the Three Squares, just to name a few of the many, to really be solution-oriented, make decisions that we use data to drive our results and what we do. And just to kind of speak to the councilman's advocacy and what he does with our communities is he's hosting these vaccination clinics. He was doing testing early on. You saw earlier in the show going out and providing holiday meals to our residents. And it's that type of collaboration that makes those residents know that they're valued by their electeds, by us as an organization, and also lets us work collaboratively to think about solutions for building new properties, which at the end of the day is our ultimate goal to get out of this crisis.
All right. Well, Wally Swenson, a pleasure having you on the program. A great topic, a very timely topic. So thank you for your insight. Thank you for sharing it with us. And have to have him back in the future. That was a really good discussion. Hopefully we'll be starting to make a dent in some of the problem here.
He did great. Absolutely fantastic. I was commenting, he got makeup just like I did.
Yeah, see?
So your head doesn't make it so shiny that you're watching.
You guys are naturals. You're
yes,
TV naturals.
we do this together.
I love your haircut, Councilman.
Tag team. We're going to tag team it.
All right. Well, again, Wally, thanks so much. And folks out there, we always want to hear from you. So if there's something you'd like to share with Councilman Knudsen, you can find him on Facebook and Twitter. You can also contact him just by picking up the phone. We still do that here, 702-229-6405, or send him an email. His address is Knudsen@LasVegasNevada.gov, and he or one of his great staff will get right back to you with whatever your concern might be. So, Councilman, thank you so much for being on the show again. Have a great holiday season. I guess I'll see you next year.
In 2022.
2022.
See you later, 2021.
All right, sounds good. Get it in the rear view. And folks, don't miss our next show beginning on December 16th with Ward 3 City Councilwoman Olivia Diaz. You can now catch all of our KCLV shows on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire, and watch for our QR code during the closing credits of this show to subscribe to our newsletter. Also, don't forget, you can watch us live on the internet at kclv.tv. Thank you again for joining us, everyone. We'll see you next time around, and happy holidays.